Good morning, boys and girls. How are we doing? Hope everyone's well, happy, and trading well this week. Wish you all a good weekend. What's up, Angelo? How are you, man? Good to see you. Can you let me know if you can see this Bitunix poster on my screen, and then also if the sound's okay? Slightly out of breath, just come off the back of a workout, so forgive me. All good? What's up, JJ? How you doing, man? Flo, good to have you here. Giorgio, nice to see you all. Hope you're having a nice weekend. So, starting the stream off with a sponsorship, a bit different. Bitunix have sponsored these live streams, and I basically managed to get a really good deal with them for all of you guys. So what I've been pushing with them all is trying to get the highest rebates for all of my users. Now, basically, we've put together this campaign, right? It's lasting from the 13th of September, so today, and it's going on for a week, okay? So if you click the link in my description, you get free margin to trade with, no strings attached, right? If you deposit 200, as you can see here, you get 80 USDT free futures bonus. If you deposit 300, you get 120 USDT free futures bonus. And if you deposit 800, you get a whopping 320 USDT free futures bonus. So these are huge rewards, guys. All you have to do to unlock the reward is trade once. So it's deposit, trade once, and it will be deposited into your account the following Monday. The futures bonus, that is. And the campaign will be going on for the whole month. But if you deposit this week, you'll get a 40% deposit bonus instead of 30. So as you can see here, up to 320 USDT free margins trade with, guys. That's all this is. So it's not directly withdrawable cash, right? So you can't just deposit 800 and pull out 800 plus 320. That's not how it works. It's trading margin, right? So if you deposit 800 USDT, then you get 320 futures bonus USDT as trading margin deposited to your account the following Monday, okay? So absolute no-brainer, guys. Very much recommend going ahead and unlocking these bonuses whilst I've managed to unlock them for you all. And yeah, why not? Just get a bit more trading margin behind you, okay? Bitunix is no KYC as well, just FYI, so there's no barrier to entry there. Right, now let's crack on with the stream, shall we? Pulled it across on XRP, my favorite market to look at the moment. But we won't start there. Let's start with BTC and get into all of the high caps first, shall we? So, BTC, right? We've been speaking about this gray zone here for a long time now, okay? So it's been a long time, week on week, both my private streams in my Discord group and in my public YouTube streams, we've been talking about this large, wide gray zone here, which is this pocket of weekly intra-demand, okay? So, just to recap, for those that don't know, intra-demand is when you have an impulse to the upside, a cluster of back and forth candles, red and green, and then an impulse again to the upside out of the zone, okay, which creates this cluster of demand, which, as I've been harping on about for weeks now, is the first point of buffer, potential buffer in this uptrend and correction off the back of this local sweep up here. So essentially what we've seen is two things. Okay, we came up, we sweep this local high here on the weekly. We were tapping up into the 70s at this point here, and we've come down, we've reset the RSI, right? So the RSI has dipped down to the 53s. Anything between the 55 and the 45 region for me is a technical reset, right? So we've reset BTC, and we've done so into this pocket of intra-demand here, okay? So we can now see that we've started to make the push away, all right? So yes, you know, the last week was good. We had an initial reaction, but we're now really starting to see that follow through here. And obviously it makes the argument that we would bounce from weekly demand in action much more plausible now, okay? Especially considering we've reclaimed this level here on the 4 hour, okay? So we were kind of being capped by this level here, and you could widen it somewhat to here, really, this sort of SR on the 4 hour, okay? Now on the 10th of September, so 3 days ago, we reclaimed this on the 4 hour, which is really the time frame of interest, right? I was looking at this chart mainly on the 4 hour because that's where the nicest interactions were. And we look good, right? We look good in this area. BTC is looking strong. If we take a look at the daily here, okay, we've now reclaimed the mid-level on the RSI. We can just do a bit of a top-down 3-day kind of resetting here. It did dip down a little bit past the 50 level, down to 45s. But again, like I say, anything between 55 and 45 is good reset zone for me. So healthy on the 3-day, healthy on the weekly, daily looking good with a reclaim. We're now above the 50 here. 12 hour, decent, okay, not too bad. And 4 hour, a little bit of cooling off needed as we dipped, we stretched past the 70 ever so slightly there. But all in all, looking good, looking healthy, looking promising. Okay, so we can take a quick look at the deltas if you just let me pull them over. Yeah, deltas look good. Deltas look good as well. Okay, so big spikes of negative delta down here. Okay, so big spikes down here, and then you can see as price then further drifted down into this weekly pocket of intra-demand, you can see that it was still mainly supported by negative delta, right? For those that don't know, what that means is that there is a lot of market selling taking place into limit bids. Those that do the market selling are smaller retail participants in the market, and those that do the limit bidding are larger organizational, institutional entities that have too much size to operate in market form. They soak up, they absorb, and they pivot price, right? These are the large cogs that move the market, okay? They move the market slowly, as you can see here. Not a direct effect here. It's constant soaking of those market sells. But once those cogs get set in motion, they are powerful, okay? So you can see that the moves into weekly intra-demand getting soaked up, moves up. And then you can see also in terms of delta dynamics, what's quite interesting is that we have the presence of positive delta here, right? And here as well, I suppose. Yet price still marches on, okay, which is very good. Okay, it shows us the underlying strength of the market, the underlying strength of the trend on BTC, and is a promising sign indeed. Okay, so I'm just going to pull ETH over. ETH, a beautiful chart indeed. Okay, so the most significant time frame, fuck it, let's do some top down stuff here. Okay, so monthly, right? Obviously very sharp spike up here. Okay, so super sharp spike up on ETH. which was slightly worrying, right? From a technical and purely price action standpoint and point of view, taking out this high here with all of this speed, not ideal, right? That's quite inefficient in the way that it's moved. We would prefer to see some stalling like this, a few more breaks in price, etc. But if we are to start a true parabolic incline and uprise in price, then as you can see here, you know, that sort of stuff can go out the window, okay? So on the weekly, everything from the weekly down looks great, okay? So we're starting to look a lot healthier than we did a few weeks ago. What I said is that I wanted to see consolidation in this region, okay? So consolidation before we start attacking price discovery is really what we want to see, and ETH bulls want to see, okay? So weekly is starting to see that, the 3-day, starting to see that more so, of course, as we go more and more granular and drop down the time frames. What's great about the 3 days, you can see how the RSI has just started to cool off here, okay? Daily is a work of art, to be honest. It's beautiful. You can see that it's just, and like, please look at this chart and bake this into your memory, okay? Because this chart here and this picture of ETH is incredibly important because it highlights one of the key characteristics and hallmark traits of the RSI that is seldom spoken about and often completely overlooked, which is interactions with the 50 level on the RSI, okay? So just look at this here, right? Just look at the way that the price is interacting with the 50 level, okay? So it comes down here at this point, taps down to the 50 level exactly, and with little anything else in the way of confluence in terms of we're not moving into demand here or support, we bounce, we move away, right? So from a technical standpoint, what made this market move up here? It was a reset to the 50 level, as simple as that, okay? A daily reset to the 50 level. Now, when you're looking at resets with the RSI, it's better to use the more commonly used time frames. So for instance, weekly, 3-day, daily, 12-hour, 4-hour, 1 hour, etc. Okay, if you start looking at 3-hour, etc., then it's going to be a little bit more sticky and hard to use. But as you can see here, daily time frame ETH down to the 50 level, and Bosch move away. Okay, so that's all that was happening here, was a reset down to the 50 level. We move up, we take this SR level, we stretch up, we take this high out here, and you can see that before we do so, again, price comes down, and then we have a bit more confluence. Okay, so we're now retesting this SR level in harmony with the 50 reset. Okay, move away, come back down, and what we've had here is basically just this sort of tight hugging dynamic here on the 50 level, as price basically just comes down, drifts down, right, cools off, right? And what we're doing here is, as we sort of cool off for this extended period, we're hugging the 50 level and using it as support. Okay, so this is sort of the bed, the foundation for price, right? It's just holding above this 50 level. In this area here, it's just cooling off nicely, which is exactly what I said we wanted to see over the last few weeks. Very, very happy to see this sort of sideways crab price action indeed. And of course, the longer that this goes on, the more the 3-day gets to come down, etc. The more the weekly gets to come down. So great that we saw this occur. But yeah, if you guys don't use 50 and resets, RSI resets, and you do use the RSI for other things like divergence, overextensions, etc., etc., let this picture be that lesson to you, that you should spend much more focus and place much more emphasis on the 50 level, on the RSI, because it is truly truly powerful. Okay, it's a great piece of price action confluence that you can weave into your trading system, and especially in trending markets. Okay, it's yeah, it's something that I couldn't trade without, really, to be honest. It's in most of my trending market, breakout trades, etc., continuation trades, anything that's sort of momentum based is, yeah, the 50 level comes very, very handy. Okay, very handy indeed. So yeah, cooling off here, pushing away, and yeah, looking good for ETH. It's looking good for ETH. If memory serves right, the delta dynamics are incredibly healthy as well, so we can take a look at that. Because these are even more noteworthy than BTC, to be completely honest. Okay, so so what we're looking at here is the hourly, right? I always use the hourly for my BTC and ETH delta templates. If you want to get your hands on these templates, there's a link in the description to my Discord group, and there's a 7-day free trial. You don't have to pay anything at all to join. You can come in and get these templates completely free of charge if you wish to, and yeah, indispensable, right? These templates, these charts are absolutely indispensable in terms of if you trade BTC and ETH. You can see again as we come back down and we have that sort of cooling off on the RSI. Again, the prominent negative delta here. So what does that mean? Market selling taking place into limit bids, aka the smaller market participants are panicking, the smaller market participants are selling, and the larger market participants are buying. Right, so it can be reduced in the most rudimentary sense to that sort of narrative and thesis. Okay. Now, yes, lots of prominent negative delta. Yes, lots of absorption, all the good stuff that we want to be seeing. But I think the thing that's the most noteworthy on this whole page is this spike down here, okay? So lots of market selling took place on this hourly candle on the 5th of September. But as we did so, we created this isolated spike of delta on the histogram down here, okay? Now, the reason this is so noteworthy is that if you scroll out and you look at ETH more historically speaking, still looking at the hourly, right? We're just stretching back that look back period. You can see really the scale and gravity of this spike here, okay? So still scrolling. There's nothing that even comes close to matching it, okay? And there's no more data, as you can see down here. So we're stretching all the way back to February, 17th of February, and we have the biggest isolated spike of negative delta here as we come down and cool off, right? So we know that what we're doing on a daily, on the 3-day, etc. So all super healthy, and we're hovering right underneath all-time highs in price discovery, right? So to see this sort of soaking up of market sells and propping by way of limit bids, larger institutions, organizations, as I mentioned earlier, just underneath all-time highs, it's not looking too shabby for ETH, okay? It's not looking too shabby indeed, all right? Okay, so that's pretty much everything that we have to cover and talk about on BTC and ETH. Trade-wise, this could have been a trigger here, right? So this could have been a nice, healthy trigger in terms of taking a sensible and responsible long position. I didn't take any trades on ETH or BTC in these areas, despite how clean the daily was here. I was very tempted to, but the reason I didn't was because I've hit my quota for max open risk recently on the altcoins, right? So open risk is a concept that if you're not familiar with it, please familiarize yourself with it, because in trending markets particularly, it basically acts as the parameters and guidelines that will save you from blowing out accounts, okay? Open risk basically means that it's the total amount of cumulative risk assigned to either long or short, and almost always pro trend. So if we're in a bull market, it's the total amount of risk you can assign to longs. In a bear market, the total amount of risk you can assign to shorts, okay? So because I was hitting my max quotas for open risk, I didn't take anything on ETH or BTC because I was already sized into 2 altcoin long positions that I was maxed out on risk for, which we can have a look at purely because they serve good conversation pieces from an educational standpoint. Okay, as I've said a few weeks ago, I'm not going to be disclosing all of my trades trade by trade going forward because I felt like I was starting to force positions for the sake of having something to speak about with you guys, which was really a subconscious occurrence that I wasn't too cognizant of. But if there are trades that are noteworthy, if there are trades that serve for good conversation, and trades that I can run through and you can garner some good secondhand experience from, then I'll do so. Okay. So we were looking at multiple altcoins in the group. Okay, multiple altcoins, and we were discussing which ones were sort of best to focus on, which ones were best to hone in on. Some that came to mind were HBAR. Yeah. Okay, so very, very nice here. Deviation. We spoke about this in the last stream in a lot of detail, right? If you were to tackle this, where to place your stops, how to tackle it, etc., etc. That was more of a conversation piece in terms of general trade management, trade psychology, etc. But we did speak about this at length in the last stream. What were some of the other ones? Pengu, we didn't quite get the trigger on. Okay, so we were looking at this isolated low down here, didn't get the trigger on Pengu. Sui was another in terms of this deviation down here and reclaim. Okay, which else? XLM was another one, right? So again, we spoke about this one, I believe, at length in the last stream as well. So you can see here this deviation, right, plus divergence here. So nice clean 4-hour divergence. Let's just change the colors here so it's not too confusing, because we are talking about bull divs, not bear divs. So div plus deviation plus prolonged deviation and time-based capitulation for many, I'm sure. If you manage to survive a position like this on one of these altcoins, then hats off. Congratulations to you. I know a few members of my group did manage to survive this sort of prolonged, extended, make the trader sweat sort of period. And I'm proud of those members for doing so, because it shows great willpower and advancements in trading psychology, management of positions, management of stress, management of drawdown, and oftentimes when you're in these sort of positions, like I said, last stream, the market almost always makes you sweat a good bit, right? So you need a healthy bit of sweat in your positions almost always. The V reversals, the Dalai Lamas, etc., are incredibly rare, seldom seen in the markets. You normally have to go through a bit of pain and turmoil. So if you manage to go through that and survive and still, sit comfy in your long positions, then hats off to you. Okay, I'm sure that's something that months ago, years ago, you wouldn't have been able to do. So take credit for that. But out of all of these, the ones that I chose to move in on were XRP and AERO. Okay. So XRP with by far the most size, probably 80%, 70% size was taken on XRP in terms of my open risk, right? So 70 to 80% open risk went on XRP, 20 to 30 went on AERO. And I said multiple times in my Discord that if there is any market to focus on, even though there were tons of lovely setups in formation, that XRP was 150% that market to focus on. Okay, so we can look at why and we can look at how. Okay, so how I tackled the trade, because there's also quite a bit of interesting takeaway from that side of things as well. Okay, and then we start talking about systematization versus discretion, etc., etc. So first off, I just want you to take a look at the weekly here on XRP. All right, so this is the cleanest higher time frame chart, maybe barring BNB, out there at the moment. Okay, it's super bullish since the end of 2024. Just been in this raging uptrend. Okay, so we're currently up 535%, right, from the lows, and we were up 630. Okay, so that's a move down from 50 cents basically to past $3 here, and yeah, it's an incredibly strong market, and one to always be keeping an eye on in terms of the higher time frame picture and trying to catch a ride on the train for the next leg up, basically. Okay. Also, another added benefit of trading XRP is that it's very liquid. Okay, so you're not dealing with any shit coins, nothing illiquid. You can move in with size if you do trade with size as well, so that's also an added bonus. But simply just, you know, even if you trade with $10 a pop, you know, just the higher time frame picture here is something that you want to be getting on board with. Okay, so as you guys know, I trade a weekly strength watch list here. These are the strongest markets on the weekly time frame, but not all are created equal. Okay, so if you look at something like Syrup, which still hasn't really made the move, it's very different to XRP. Okay, or if you're looking at something like Deep, for instance, again, it's a different picture to XRP. So within this watch list, there are of course stronger contenders, and that's basically as simple as the rationale for me saying that you should focus on XRP if you're going to focus on anything. Okay, so weekly looking incredibly strong here. Okay, actually let's just replay it to back where we were. Okay, so weekly looking very strong. Not only that, we're back down and resetting. Okay, so number one, 3-day resetting, holding as mid. Okay, so when you're taking these trades, and especially if you're looking to designate a large amount of your open risk to positions, you need to do thorough and comprehensive analysis of the market at hand. Okay, so you look at all time frames, top down, and then practice all the good stuff: the patience, the discipline, the stringency, and the confidence. Right, so confidence to size in, almost what seems irresponsibly so. Okay, to certain markets, grabbing your balls, putting your cash on the table when it's time to. And then not doing anything for weeks or potentially months. Okay, so that's basically the game plan here. Position trading XRP and letting it run. Okay, so taking out this level here. So we've got local sweep, 3-day reset, all looking very healthy. Okay, the daily, you can start to see that local sweep in much more detail. So we're talking about an isolated low here, right? An isolated low that's 30 days away. Okay, so we've got a good bit of a gap here, right? And price, as you can see, comes back down, takes out this area. But even from, you know, this point in here, my eyes were firmly on this low. Okay, firmly on this low. So as price then continued and developed, it was just a simple game of patience, right, to see this low get taken out. Now if we look at the execution in finer detail, it was executed on the 4-hour. Okay, so executed on the 4-hour, but this is when the conversation of systematization versus discretion really comes into play. Okay, so I often speak about the relationship between system and discretion, and it's becoming an understanding and a learning that I'm sort of settling more and more comfortably in as the years go on, which is that having a system is great, right? It's the rail guards, it's the parameters that keep you in check, but a system is basically a rule book, right? It's telling you the rules of when and where and how you should be operating, okay? So the when, the where, the how is basically a system. I'm actually putting out a video probably in 2 weeks about how to create a bulletproof trading system, and it basically all revolves around the where, the when, and the how. Now, in this case, the where would be this isolated low. Why is this so appealing? Because there are no other lows in this area that price could be stretching for. This is the low, right? This is where price will pivot if a sweep and reverse is going to take place. The when is simply waiting, right? So it's a patience game. You're waiting for price to take out that level. And the how, I was ideally waiting for a divergence. Okay, so I'm looking for a divergence, ideally above the hourly. All right, so ideally above the hourly. And then it becomes, this is where the difficult part takes place. Okay, and this is something that I really want you guys to pay attention to. So if you're going to take anything away from this stream, it's going to be this. Because the how is where the difficulty comes in place. It's where you have to take yourself out of the situation, you know, maybe go for a walk, think about everything that's going on, okay? Write stuff down on paper, really start doing some lateral thinking about the trade, okay? Because you will need to now bring in your discretionary elements to the execution, which is where you take your trading to the next level. Okay, now you're talking about advanced trading psychology and execution. Okay, so naturally it is a little bit harder to get to grips with, but very necessary if you want to take your trading to the next level, right? So let's get into it. Okay, I was looking for a divergence, and all right, so let's replay it. Okay, so this is where the execution took place, right? So we know the where, right? We know the when. Okay, happening down here, looking good. Okay, we're looking good. We have a clean 4-hour green pin bar candle, which is nice. Okay, we can see by looking at price, I don't even need to look at the oscillators, right? We can see by looking at price, we have this arc structure here, which is a divergence. Okay, we don't need to look at the oscillators to know that this is going to be some sort of diverging structure across the awesome oscillator and the RSI. Okay, but if we pull up the oscillators, we can see that we have the difficulty, right? This is when stuff gets very difficult. This is when discretion needs to come into play. We have higher lows across the awesome oscillator. We have lower lows on price. But the RSI has lower lows. Okay. So the RSI here is breaking one of my systems rules. Okay, so one of my systems rules says that when you're operating a divergence plus a sweep trade, or just a divergence plus anything trade, it could be a tap into supply and demand, you need to have a proper, well-structured double divergence across the RSI and the awesome oscillator. Okay, so what that means is that both the RSI and the awesome oscillator have higher lows in this case, right? It'd be something like this. So this first leg on the div, right, is breaking two rules for my divergence. First is that it's making lower lows, it's not making higher lows. The second is that the first leg isn't overextended. So another one of my rules, and if you want to see all of my rules, I have a video, I think 2 or 3 videos back, the RSI masterclass, and I go through my 7 golden rules for divergence trading. But another one of them is having both peaks overextended. Okay, so peak 1 would be here, ideally, peak 2 here. Okay, and you know, the more severe the divergence, the better. So even if we come down here, that would be even more ideal. Okay, but we don't have that, right? We have to put it simply and bluntly, we don't have a divergence here. There is no divergence here on the RSI. Okay, we have lower lows against price making lower lows. By that definition, there is no divergence. Okay, the divergence by definition only occurs when price is diverging away from the RSI, and they are doing something different and opposing. Okay, that's what divergence means, to diverge, right? We don't have that here. Okay, so all we have is an AERO divergence, right? We have no RSI divergence. Yes, we have a nice green 4-hour pin bar. So why did I focus all of my efforts on XRP, and why did I focus all of my size on XRP? Simply the strength of the trend. Okay, so the way that execution and confluence should work, it should always be taken in reference to the strength of the trend, right? The stronger the trend, the less confluence you need, and the weaker the trend, the more confluence you need. So if this was a non-directional market, and we were just bouncing backwards and forwards on the higher time frame, I may still take this trade, but I would need to see that double divergence across the RSI and the awesome oscillator. Now, the fact that we are in a raging uptrend on XRP, it's two things. The fact that we're on a raging uptrend on the higher time frames, and the fact that we are operating at this point in terms of left side price action. So this is a golden point at which to do business, right? Pro trend on the higher time frames, then range bound, then taking out a low, sweeping it and continuing, right? This is classic trending market price action. Okay, so it's two things: the strength of the trend and the point at which we're doing business, i.e. this isolated independent low for the sweep. Made me say to myself, okay, cool, you don't have the RSI divergence, but this is XRP, and it's XRP at this independent low. It's pro trend, right? It's one of the strongest markets. Are you going to get that much confluence? Likely not, right? So in raging markets or in nuking markets, in heavily trending markets, you tend to not get those golden setups in terms of price action, those golden setups in terms of technical confluence. You have to start getting comfortable with bending your rules, fully breaking your rules in some cases, to get on board and to ride the train in the direction of the trend. Okay, so again, it's something that over the years I get better and better at doing. It does take, of course, a discretionary element. It does take first-hand experience for sure. You know, this level of trading is not something that you can really just garner through second-hand experience. I hope that these streams do deliver as much value as possible to you all, and that you take my words on, and this sort of notion of system versus discretion really gets baked into your mind. But still, it's something that you have to unfortunately go through yourself, through first-hand experience, through forward testing, through trading over the months and years. So yeah, I'm in XRP here. Still haven't even tightened the stop up. That's not because I've forgotten. It's because it's more of a deliberate move. This for me is still kind of the beginnings of the position, right? I'm not intending to. Yes, I could take the trade up here, right? What we could do is move up here, put in a divergence up here, lock back underneath this level here, at which point I'll be forced to manually cut the position, sure. But if not, we let the trend just keep doing its thing, right? We position trade this, right? We trade this for weeks, we trade this for months, and we let it run until we're told to get out of the position. We're forced to get out of the position, okay? So yes, it may make sense to perhaps add a 20% TP in this area here, all right? That sort of makes sense. But I won't be sort of blind exiting the whole position up here, because in until things are proven otherwise. The higher time frames are showing us that this trend is to continue, right? We're still looking extremely healthy on the higher time frames. And yes, I took a 4-hour execution, but I'm scaling into a higher time frame picture. Okay, so I'm taking that 4-hour, knowing what the higher time frame looks like, wanting to position into this. And for these types of positions, I'm trying not to look at it actively at all. Right? I'm really trying not to look at it. And to be honest, doing a good job. I haven't looked at the P&L once since being in this position. Reason being is because I want to focus on the process, not the profits. Really ride this in that sort of nature. And once and only once the chart tells me to get out of position, then maybe I can take a peek at the P&L and celebrate the win at that point. But at this point, there's no point doing so because of the size that I took on this position. If I looked at it now, I'd probably go, okay, cool, we should just be TPing some, just for the sake of the profit factor. Okay, so how much I made from a sort of monetary dollar standpoint as opposed to an R standpoint or a process-based standpoint, which is not really how I want to sort of operate going forward. Okay, so the trading that I want to adopt going forward is very much move from swing closer to swing / position or straight up position, depending on the market regime. Let the trend do the work. Focus on the strongest markets in uptrends, the weakest markets in downtrends. Be very patient, not take very many positions, but when I do so, smash them with size, let them ride, enjoy my life, right? So whilst those positions are running in the background, go off and enjoy my life, hobbies, family, language. I'm learning Portuguese at the moment. Tons of things, right? Loads and loads of other stuff. Really enjoying making YouTube content as well. So that's been a sort of creative outlet for me. Whatever it is for you, I very much recommend you sort of move towards that lifestyle and relationship with trading in the charts. Because as well as that, the recent video I put out, if you haven't checked it out, please do. It's called How I Fixed My Trading from Dopamine to Discipline. And this sort of manner of trading is completely undriven by dopamine, right? And it's completely driven by the antithesis of dopamine, which in my point of view is discipline. It's that patience, that discipline to wait for weeks, wait for months, wait for that perfect point to do business, to sort of take place, then analyze the situation from a top-down perspective, really rationalize how much you want to be in this position, how much size you want to adhere to and put down on the table. And the beauty of it as well is that you sort of have this monk-like high performance, high zen state of mindset, basically, whereby if you are trading this on the lower time frames and getting chopped up, right? So let's say on the hourly here, you're taking all of these positions, right? So you're taking the sweep down here. Okay, so you're taking this sweep, hypothetically speaking, as a long, and then you're taking this, maybe this SFP, this sweep up here, and you're trading this back and forth. Maybe you're winning some, maybe you're losing some. Most likely you're losing some unless you're a very experienced trader. That's just how it goes, unfortunately. You're getting chopped up and you're putting yourself in a negative emotional state of operation, okay? Instead, what I'm doing is I'm keeping stress low, I'm keeping patience high, I'm making sure I'm well rested. I don't have, grief from recent losses that I have to sort of process, which then shakes my self-esteem, which then causes me to either size in less or straight up not take the trade because it doesn't match, my technical systematic framework in terms of double divergence, whatever it is, okay? Instead, I'm waiting patiently, sizing in, letting the position run, and taking that sort of standpoint and approach to my trading in the markets, okay? So Bit of a rant there, guys, but really hope that these words land on open ears and you guys take on board some of these teachings. What's up, Smokes? How you doing? Appreciate it, Angelo. What's up, Jim? Tran, I can look at ENA shortly. Yeah. We haven't even spoken about AERO, so let's look at AERO quickly as well. We can sort of run through that thought process, okay? So AERO, as you can see, hasn't actually been the strongest play out, okay? But when you're taking these trades and you have multiple altcoins that are setting up with really, really clean setups, you have to kind of take your stabs, okay? So XRP was my main stab, my main shot, all good. AERO was my second, okay? Because super, super clean uptrend here. Taking out, again, that sort of final isolated low. And if you look at the 6 hour, for me, structure-wise, it was the cleanest setup from a technical perspective, okay? Why? Because unlike XRP, we do have that double divergence, okay? So we do have that double divergence. We've got higher lows here, very, very much higher lows here on the awesome oscillator. So a super, super clean AO structure. I'll just pull across this bar here so you can see when you're dealing with the RSI, when you're dealing with the awesome oscillator and you're dealing with divergences, something that I've learned through sort of mentoring students is that it's easy to say higher lows on the oscillators, lower lows on price, but it's actually very hard to explain what good looking divergences look like. And this sort of very, very clean, you can see here, this is sort of a bit janky, right, up and down, what's going on, like it's not as smoothed out. This here, this with these sort of double humps here, like very straight lines as well. A super, super clean, awesome oscillator divergence here. A big fan of this structure. The RSI, not too shabby. Again, you know, these were all operating and stretching for perfect points to do business on strong markets. So were we going to get the ultimate divergence, double divergence? Probably not. This was just about good enough, right? We stretched up here to 41, right? So we're not quite stretching into the 45s to 55s, so no technical reset, right? So that's a green tick. First leg of the divergence comes down past the 30 level, overextended, so that's a tick. And second, just about, right? So we're kind of just tapping down to that 30 level. It's not quite past the 30. But again, considering 30 is overextended to the downside and 70 is to the upside, again, all good, right? And then in terms of the width of the divergence, right, it's a 12-bar divergence, okay? So all very healthy. By traditional standards, anything under 14 is fair game. For me, I sort of don't want to be as strict with the 14 rule. I stretch to 20 or thereabouts, okay? So 12 bars, very, very healthy. And of course we have the beautiful awesome oscillator confluence as well, okay? So as we do so, price with lower lows, and we take out this low here, clean sweep plus divergence in a pro trend market, okay? So we've got the sweep here, divergence, double divergence in a strong pro trend market, okay? So why did I take AERO and why did I not take something like Stellar or XLM? The reason being is because I was trying to sort of balance out the way I was weighted and positioned, okay? So XRP, majority of the weight, okay, was given to XRP because of all of the stuff I just mentioned, right? Strength of the trend, the point at which we were doing business, i.e. that isolated low, etc., etc. But we were taking a trade where we were bending and ultimately breaking rules in terms of the double divergence. So AERO was my sort of counterbalance to that, if you will, because this was the most technical setup out of all of the altcoins I was looking at. So I wanted to take one which was less technical, but more leaning into discretion, the strength of the trend. And then I wanted to balance that with 20 to 30% of the weight attributed to the most technical setup that was forming. And that was, for me and my eye and my experience, AERO. Okay. It's nice, right? So nice play out so far, nice start to the position here, right? It's not looking too shabby, but it hasn't raged as much as H-bar, it hasn't raged as much as XLM, right? So these have had more of a play out, ever so slightly. If we look at XLM, for instance, again, slightly more of a play out. This kind of XLM always just shadows and copies XRP, right? So it's the laggard to XRP. Historically speaking, it's been like that for years. Yeah, like I say, you know, more technical setup on the AERO side of things. But if you just look at the difference between AERO and XRP here, okay. So where are we? So AERO and XRP, and you can see the difference in the push away from the initial stages of the position. I want this to be a note to you. So another takeaway, right? If you're going to bake anything else into your mind and take anything else away from this stream, it's this notion of the best technical setup versus the strongest market or the weakest market in a downtrend, okay? And it's something that I keep, you know, as I go through my years in trading, there are new struggles every year. So at the beginning, it was over managing trades. It was being in too many positions. It was having no patience, no discipline, no stringency. It was over trading the lower time frames, all the common pitfalls, right? I'm not unique in any of those respects. Recently, it's been much more taking the stronger market over the technical market, really. You know, when you're presented with all of these trade setups, taking, you know, really, and I've executed well in this respect, you know, considering this is 70-80% of the weight on the stronger market. Again, that's been something that I've learned through my journal reflections over the months, is that, you know, I keep taking the what I was doing was keep taking the more technical setup, i.e. the AEROs, and you know, sacking off the stronger market with the less technical setup, because I was basically sticking too much within my zones of systematization, because I felt like that was responsible trading, that was cautious trading, that was me keeping my wits about me. But I've realized as the months and years go on that I need to wait more. And, you know, maybe in a few months you'll see me take a trade where I skip the AERO and I take full XRP. I may go that far with it, because almost always I find that the stronger market will just go, and the technical setup, the one with the best technical entry, and the one that ticks most of the price action boxes, won't as much, right? So the play out won't be as strong. BNB is a great example of that. Right? It's a great example of that at the moment. I'm not in a BNB position. Why? Because we had other things going on, you know, with the XRP position, with the AERO positions, with all the other markets that were setting up, HBAR, you know, Pengu approaching the lows, Syrup with a diagonal daily trendline break, tons of things, right? Even stuff like Zoro over here with the move into demand, which didn't play out very well in the end. Sui with the deviation. There were so many markets here that had things to focus on. But, you know, throughout all of that, I didn't take the BNB position, and very proud of, I think a few members of my Discord have taken on my teachings better than myself. Right, so very proud of the growth and development of the members of the group that have done so. It's been super rewarding to see all of that take place. Honestly, one of the most rewarding things about the ONF brand so far. So if you're listening to this, well done, guys. But it, you know, it was as simple as this, right? It's as simple as this, right? Like I said before, the stronger the market, the less confluence you need, and that's exactly what those members did, right? They looked at this and go, okay, cool. This is the strongest market, right? So XRP and BNB. I mean, BNB hype are truly the strongest markets, right? At the moment, anyway, unless we see and TRX. But this simple diagonal break here, you know, it was great, right? 1 touch point, 2 touch points, 3 touch points, 4 touch points, right? So we need at least 3, but to have 4, really, really nice. So very, very clean trend line, very well respected. If you look at it on the hourly here, we can see it in more detail. So I believe their time frame of operation and execution was the hourly. Okay, you can see these interactions here, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then on the 5th, consolidation, right, underneath. If we replay it, I haven't done this exercise, so I may look a bit foolish, but I imagine there'll be some resets that take place. Yep, exactly, yeah, reset, right? So we've got the hourly reset, that hourly interaction with the mid-level, yet again on the RSI. This normally, by the way, if you're stochastic traders, this normally lines up with stock. So I don't actually have stock as a favorite, but if you whack on the stochastic, right? So this dip down here, as you can see, we come from the overextended down to the reverse side overextended to the downside. So when we have those RSI midpoints, it's normally that stochastic that goes to the other side, basically, and resets the stock, as well as resetting the RSI. This normally happens, I mean, pretty much every reset, right? So most resets that take place, the stock does that reset as well. And it's the reason I don't use stock, right? It's the same stuff as a reset, and I just prefer to use and learn and familiarize myself more intimately with the RSI than start whacking on a bunch of different indicators. But as you can see here, like what a lovely trade, and what a great illustration of the fact that you should be focusing on the stronger markets, the ones that are more aligned with the trend than the ones with the best technical setup, because you've got tons of markets in the watch list that were printing great technical setups. Meanwhile, BNB with a simple trendline break and the strongest push away that we've seen so far. Okay, so again, it's another learning for me. It's another takeaway for myself. You know, I'm not the perfect trader by any means. I still have a lot of growth to be had, for sure. Again, I know these things, right? I know to focus on the stronger market over the technical market, but again, it's just shedding these sort of earlier learnings in my career and rewiring the way that I see the markets and approaching them, essentially. So yeah, like I say, to all the members of my group that managed to sort of take on my teachings of the stronger the market, the less confluence, the touch points and the way that we grade trend lines, consolidation prior to the breakout, all of the good stuff that we sort of harp on about day in, day out. Well done, guys. Hats off to you all. And yeah, so this stream was more educational as opposed to a market scan. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions at all before I clock off, do let me know. What second indicator you have under the RSI call? Did you say awesome oscillator? Yeah, awesome oscillator, otherwise known as the AERO. So if you go here, just awesome oscillator, it's one of the TradingView defaults. If you were going to throw 4K on something in the next pullback, what would you do for maximum gains only? I'm not going to tell you that, unfortunately, Victoria. You're going to have to work that one out yourself. But like I say, focus on the strongest markets. Right? Always focus on the strongest markets. For me, that's BNB. For me, that's Hype and TRX. okay, despite this horrible price action here. Yeah, TRX is well reset here on the 3-day. And on the weekly, it's come down from the 80s down to a much healthier place in the 60s as well. And this notion of sort of buying into things that look like this on the higher time frame, they're strong because they're strong, right? They're likely to continue doing so. It goes completely against the narrative of all the sort of, you know, Warren Buffett stuff and, you know, buy the blood, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, it works in certain regimes for sure, but I'd much rather be positioned into a TRX, a hype, or a BNB than I would a 1-inch. I don't want to be involved in this. I'm not waiting for this to take off. It's not really something that I do unless I love the fundamentals of the coin that I'm looking at, in which it's a long hold for years, tucked away on cold storage. I'm forgetting about it and taking a full hero or zero stance on it. Very welcome, JJ. Very welcome, man. Thoughts on SEI? Okay, so we'll do some of the requests. First was ENA. Weekly looking good. All right, so weekly looks good here, above the 50 level, but still with lots of room to go. 3-day, same sort of situation. Daily, starting to look a bit more worrying here, just from a technical standpoint, in that we've had this sweep up here. 4. Again, sort of cooling off here from the sweep, which is good, but we may see a play out from this sweep. Whether we do or not, anyone's guess. I'm not going to tell you that that's going to happen or not. If you look at BTC, you can see that the same sort of thing happened up here. All right, take out this high here. Also, fart coin. Same thing here, right? So yes, we were in an uptrend, but we had a big cool off from a sweep that took place. Okay, so the same sort of thing here, more on the 4-hour. So yeah, whether we see that sort of take place on ENA, anyone's guess. SEI. Well, we've run through SEI already, but we can take a quick look at it. It's deviated the lows. Oh, sorry, that's SUI. Okay, SEI. Weekly, very, very nice. All right, so this reclaim of the mid here. And if I just plot this as if I just overlap here, you can see exactly how it's respecting the mid here. Reclaimed as support, pushing away. Okay, so for a chart that's around the sort of the lower third here and the bottom of its price action, it's looking good. Okay, so from a weekly standpoint, looking good. Daily, also looking decent. Okay, so not overextended on the daily here. We've got this sort of 2-point trend line here that we're slightly breaking through. 4-hour, slightly overextended. Wouldn't be surprised to see some sort of lower time frame cool off. Aave. Good market, strong market. It's been cooling off for some time after a raging uptrend. Okay, so if you look at the 3-day, we look at the weekly, looking very, very healthy. This is exactly where we want to see the RSI positioned. Again, similar to SEI, reclaiming that mid, holding it, and we're likely to see that push away. 3-day, beautiful interaction with the mid here. Very, very nice. Very, very nice. Daily looking good as well. And down to the 4-hour, it's looking very, very healthy and in good stead for a push up. Right, I'd be very surprised to not see this go for another push. I'm having serious problems when it comes to executing trades. I think my analysis is okay, but the lack of confidence is affecting me a lot. Any advice? Go through my YouTube videos, especially the last few videos, which are very much psychology based. Apart from that, recommend taking me up on my 7-day free trial in my group. There is no commitment to paying at all. And if you come in there, it's very much hands-on mentorship with students. It's where I spend my day-to-days and really try and see people help flourish and grow as much as possible. But RR, I do not give signals. No, the group is not signals based at all. It's purely educational. I'll post everything. I can show you quickly here. Anything that I see that is of note, right? So you can see MNT here. We're talking about a potential weekly breakout. B, filling in this inefficiency into this potential area of doing business, i.e. origin demand. Yeah, anything that I see, so like for instance, Link moving into this pocket of origin demand here, which we've now seen a nice push away from. So it's stuff that I deem noteworthy based on the systems that we employ and adopt in the group, basically. So it's my technical toolkit, but I will never give a signal. Right? I don't want to give a signal. I don't want to be responsible for anybody else's capital. And I also want you to be able to go away from the group and leave the group, eventually leave the group, be able to stand up on your own 2 feet, be able to trade independently. And yeah, essentially that's the whole reason that I have this going on. Okay, it's to help you, it's to make you independent and profitable by your own means without any signals. Do I ever change RSI period, e.g. RSI 6? No, never. Always standard settings. Always standard settings. All right, guys, we're now over an hour on the stream. Hope you guys enjoyed. And we'll be doing these streams every same time. Every Saturday, 10:30 a.m. unless I post it up on Twitter or YouTube community posts. I may change that to Sunday mornings occasionally if I have plans. But normally, 10:30 in the morning, I'll be tuning in to catch up with you all, give my candid thoughts on the markets, run through as much educational goodness as possible to help you level up. Keep notifications on, keep that slot booked out, keep tabs on the posts section. I'll see you all next week.